An international story that we are watching today. People in Scotland are voting on the country's possible independence. So today's vote will determine whether Scotland remains part of the UK or become its own independent nation. The decision could have a major impact on business, as you can imagine, on politics. Another big concern, the future of England's submarine base in Scotland, which houses the country's nuclear weapons. Now, that is something I did not know about the arsenal of nuclear weapons in Scotland, housed there. And from what I'm reading, because of a link that you sent to us this morning, sort of as a primer about the issues, those nuclear weapons are housed in Scotland, but they're U.S. missiles.
Right.
I didn't know that.
And they're basically rented by the British.
Yes.
And so if Scotland decides to break away from England, the thought is that they will vote to against those nuclear weapons, and they'll have to be housed elsewhere.
Somewhere else, right.
But a lot of repercussions possibly from this vote. And to talk about those repercussions and how what the atmosphere is like in Scotland, we have Eileen Cawley on the phone. Her family divided on this issue. Eileen, how are you this morning?
Hi, good morning. I'm fine, thank you.
Eileen, do you find that there are a lot of families like yours who have differing opinions on whether Scotland should secede?
I think at the moment, Glasgow in particular, where I'm sitting at the moment, is buzzing with what's going on. I think there's a lot of people who are still undecided at the polls. The latest advice we get from the polls is it's sitting at 49% yes and 51% no. That's taking into consideration the people who are still undecided. So I think there's a lot of fragments in Scotland at the moment. But at the end of the day, it's everyone's choice. It's the people's decision, and they have to make that decision for themselves. And they're bringing in younger voters at the moment as well, giving the younger population, 16 and 17-year-olds, for the first time, to have their say. And within the youth in Scotland, it's an undividing yes, to be quite honest with you.
Interesting.
It's a resounding yes.
And Eileen, I said good morning to you, but the fact is it may be afternoon there. What time are polls supposed to close?
I'll cope with that. Sorry?
What time are polls expected to close, and what is the atmosphere like? Do you see people rushing off to the polling sites right now?
Yeah, the polls are very, very busy from this morning. I actually drove into George Square in Glasgow at 2 o'clock this morning to see what was going on. And there's, surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, there's a lot of support from the Catalan region in Spain in George Square, and there's a support camp there for independence. So the world is watching what's going on.
No question. This could affect votes in other countries, like you were saying, in and around Barcelona and in Spain and elsewhere. So what time do polls close there?
Polls close at 10 o'clock. That's the normal thing for polls to close at 10 o'clock. In voting within the UK.
And how many hours ahead are you then? It's 7:34 in the morning.
We're GMT. We're 5 hours ahead of you at the moment. So,
okay.
Polls have just where you are, it looks as though polls have just opened about half an hour or so.
Very interesting. And what a lot of people don't realize is that this isn't just about William Wallace and history and all that, but there's a lot of issues surrounding oil and nuclear weapons and things like that.
Yes, it's not about patriotism. It's not about that. There's people who are from the European Union and all over the world who are able to actually vote in this referendum. It's not about people who have lived outside Scotland for a number of years, even though they're Scottish. Diasporas all over the world, they actually can't have a vote. It's the people who are registered and who are living in Scotland who have the say. The people who are paying into the economy, the people who are working here. You know, it's all about the future, really. And yes, I understand what you're saying about nuclear weapons. I personally, I've got a little bit of a fear over that. But at the end of the day, there's there's 25 billion that's put into that, and that could be spent elsewhere on health, education, and other things. As I said, it's the people's vote, and the people will decide, and the polls will tell us that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the polls will tell us which way people are going.
Well, we certainly appreciate hearing from you, Eileen. Thank you so very much.
No problem at all. Thanks a lot.
Such an interesting perspective. She's in the thick of it, and her country is on the cusp of possibly historic change. So
Do you
we'll
know
have
what
to
I
see.
find fascinating? Another fascinating aspect, and she said it. You've got 16 and 17-year-olds voting in this. You've got 97% of the adult population voting on this. This is something that, you know, I was just reading somewhere else that Scotland has all of these politically involved young people for the first time.
Yeah.
They care so much and so deeply about what happens to their nation. It's going to be a fascinating vote to watch.
Yep, and we will know by the end of the day today how this goes.
5 o'clock our time, 10 o'clock their time.
Yep. All right.